Hey fellow Vault it's Angry Turtle, and today we're making a tier list for all 4-star weapon mods. As I finished testing and now I know exactly how they do work and which ones are actually good. So I will put them in order from the best to the worst, as well as give you a quick explanation which one works how. Because descriptions unfortunately will not tell you that. So first, Vipers we have in here. For weapons, when combat target is poisoned, deal 50% bonus damage, and luckily it does work as advertised. It gives you 50% bonus to your additive bonuses to all your weapon, so forth. So more you have, the less you feel it. That's how additive bonuses work, and that's how they all are in Fallout 76. Now, 50%, quite solid, respectable. Target need to be poisoned first before the bonus will be applied. You can achieve this effect with a Strangler Heart, so quite reliable effect, really good one. I would say, okay, I need to make it small enough to fit it on this list. I would say it deserves a spot in the A tier. How small do I need to make it? Now it will fit. Hopefully it can be still visible what that is. That I'm shrinking them later. Stabilizers improves weapon recall and stability by 50%. And this one, if you do not plan to use VATS and you want to fire the weapons outside of VATS, amazing improvement. What it doesn't say, it improves the accuracy as well by about 50%. It's solid 50%. Huge difference, if not more, between firing the weapon without this effect and with it. So if you are a big fan of heavy guns or fast firing weapons and you plan to use them outside of VATS, this is S tier for this category. So if you plan to use weapons outside of VATS, this one will be S tier. That deserves it. It really works really well. Pyromaniacs. Combat target is burning, deal 50% bonus damage. Very important about this mod, it does work on the dot. So let's say you are using a cremator, the dot damage will be increased with this effect instantly. So you don't need to apply fire first before you fire it. Already one shot from cremator, the dot is improved by 50%. Really good because of the cremator effect and other high powerful dots fire related. I would put it as S tier, but for cremator. For other, it will be A tier. So it's either S tier if you plan to put it on the cremator, or A tier. But I will stay with the best case scenario. I will put it as S tier for the cremator. So this is really good for this category. Next, pinpointers. That's the one and only through S tier for almost everything. How does it work? Basically, almost everything that's not a middle part of the enemy will have applied a weak spot bonus of 50%. If enemy already has a weak point, let's say head with 50% bonus damage, the weak point bonus will be increased by additional 50% damage. So it will be 100% bonus damage to the weak spot. It is a multiplayer because it works like a weak spot, changing a normal legs, arms into a weak spot. So it's way more powerful than other effects damage-wise for almost all enemies, and 90% of the time actual weak spot aligns with pinpointers. That includes, if we talk about raids, a snake eye. So final boss snake, its eye is the weakest spot. Already with like 5x multiplayer, it will change it with 5.5x multiplayer. I don't know exactly how big it is, but it is big. So it's adding to the weak spot multiplayer in most cases, making it absolute S tier, outperforming any other effect. Only requirement, you need to hit something else than a torso, and it works from the first shot. So it's not like bullies that only kicks in later. It does work from the first shot, which is very important. So it is absolute S tier. There is no question asked about this 4-star. Next one, we have Pounders. This is for melee weapons only, but currently for auto melee weapon, if you watch my previous video, most likely bugged, it's going up to 1000% bonus, additive bonus, but 1000%. So absolute S tier for auto melee weapons. A tier, solid A tier for regular melee weapons. And after it will be patched, as most likely it will be at some point, I don't think they will let us have it for long, it will go maybe down to A tier, but for auto melee it stacks so fast that good chance it will stay as S tier. Next one, we do have Polished. This is a solid effect, a little bit tricky to use, but it's high bonus. At this moment, you can use on the 3rd star plus 50 durability to basically lock the durability. It's somehow making items unbreakable. So very easy to use at this moment. I don't know how long it will stay. There is a downside. If item is repaired to 200%, this bonus doesn't work. So it needs to be 190% and locked. A little bit complicated to make it the best, but works great on explosive weapons when other effects are not shining so well on explosive weapons. Therefore, I will say it's a solid A tier effect. So I will put it to A tier, a solid A tier effect for Polished. Next one, Iceman's. Apply Cryo on hit, does low target when dealing damage in VATS, and that's melee only. So not only you need to use VATS, but you need to use melee weapon, and it just applies a slow effect on them. I can see some use case scenario, but not too much. So this is not great one. Some usefulness, so I don't put it as F, so useless. I put it as slightly useful under tier C. Next one, Fracturers. Did you ever wonder if you can blind yourself even more when using your weapons? Fracturers is your answer. Multiple explosions if you can cripple enemy limbs that do about no damage, but blind you very well. Therefore, overall, I judge it as negative effect. Blinding myself is not my favorite in Fallout 76. Negligible amount of damage whenever you cripple a limb. Does not apply to initial target, only targets around it. Absolutely terrifying, terrible effect. Worse than no effect at all. I put it under F tier for this particular reason. Next one, Fencers. Extra melee damage for each nearby teammate. If you always play with nearby teammates, it's solid. It is additive, so in case of melee damage, it's melee only. Not as amazing. Definitely better than nothing. Not useless. I would put it as a solid tier B. So let's place it in here. That's a solid tier B for Fencers, melee weapons. Encirclers. Damage for each combat target around you up to 50%. There's one problem with it. It's solid damage when it works, but it does require targets to be aggroed at you. So you need to have 5 enemies actively targeting you. The distance doesn't really matter. They can be close or far. When they are targeting you, you will get the bonus. Even if you are standing next to them, but sneaking, and they are not actively targeting you, you will get 0 bonus. Therefore, not amazing. It is better than nothing again. So I would say a solid tier B. Unless you are stealth, then a solid tier C. As only works when you get detected. Next. Electricians, when reloading, emit a shockwave that stuns nearby targets for 3 seconds. And there seems to be very little cooldown, so you can almost stun lock your enemies. Almost stun lock them. It doesn't really do damage. Barely any damage. You do need to reload weapon to release this shockwave. It does not work on enemies inside the raid or the bosses. Therefore, as fun as it is, it doesn't carry any special effects of your weapon, so you cannot apply dot with it or anything like that. So as fun as it is, I would say it will be hard to find a use case for this effect that would make it better than any other existing effect. I'm putting it under tier C, if I think it deserves it. So it's a tier C one. Can be used, but definitely not too much. Conductors, so that's definitely something that you would think is tier S, but it is not. After extensive testing, it seems like it's way less than 5%. In case of health, it seems to be healing quite well, although not hitting the 5% advertised mark. In case of action points, it's hitting around 1% if you are lucky and there is no server lag. If everyone on the team has it, it will be quite helpful. It is quite good for healing, not really effective for AP regeneration. The best I could get, spamming ultra fast firing weapon with high AP pool, I still achieve a total stack of 8 action point per second for 5 seconds. Is that how it works? One critical releases 1 action point regeneration per second over 5-second period, so it's not instant, it's slow, and not as advertised. Unfortunately, server lag absolutely kills it and makes it not work for the most part. So yeah, you can find a case scenario when you will use it. It's not as good as I was hoping, and I'm disappointed after testing it a lot, as I did install it on one of my weapons. I will still put it at tier B, as it does something, like it heals you. At least healing is quite significant and visible. So conductors heals you quite well, doesn't really help much with AP regeneration. Combo breakers, when dealing damage, 50% chance not to use action points, 10% chance for auto melee weapons. Why would you even consider that? I have no idea. I would say you can have it and use it if you absolutely do not have anything else and you know you will never have anything else, or this is one of your useless weapons that you occasionally use and you just want to put some kind of a 4-star on it just to have 4 stars. That's when I will use it. Therefore, it is going to tier C. Barely any help out of this effect. I don't know why it exists, to be honest, but it exists. And does not have any negative effect that I know of. So only Fracturers is the blinding negative that's so far under tier F. And lastly, Bullies, that I already discussed quite a lot when I did a video on it, and on the Gatling laser that it comes with. It does work. It does work when you hit a weak spot. It gives you 50% bonus, which is solid. It's normal additive bonus. It does activate after you shoot it once. So first shot, no bonus. All following up shots do carry bonus, unless you miss and hit, let's say, torso or limb or anything else that's not a yellow number. It's connected to yellow numbers, not to actual weak spot for enemies. Some enemies do not have any yellow number body parts at all. And by yellow numbers, I mean when you have a damage numbers on screen, some of them appear yellow. That's when you hit supposed weak spot. At some point, I hope Bethesda will align the yellow numbers with actual weak spot. There are some exceptions that it doesn't align. It does work. That's a very good news. It does work. It's very problematic if you want to use explosive weapons, as each explosion will hit something else than weak spot, automatically cancel your bonus. So you activate and cancel your bonus in the one shot, which is not optimal, but for non-explosive weapons, when you do attack a weak spot, it works, and it does currently work inside of VATS and outside of VATS, so the first part is irrelevant. Only the second part is relevant, which makes it overall a really good effect. If not the fact that first shot is required to activate it, and not counting from the first shot, I would put it higher, but I need to downgrade it at this moment by 1 spot and put it in A. It's still solid, very powerful effect, but I think it's missing a little bit to go into S tier, as we do have pinpointers that does very similar thing under S tier, and that just does it better. So it's working better, then it needs to be higher. For most case scenario, the damage will be higher, as that's adding to the weak spot multiplier. This one is adding to your bonuses, which is worse option, as you have a lot of bonuses, supposedly. And this is a final list. Do you agree? Disagree? Let me know. Would you put any of those effects under different tier? And those are only weapon effects, melee and range weapons, most of them universal. I will cover armor effects later as well. Let me know if you like this format, or if you prefer if I would be talking about it in-game instead of placing them under different tiers. Let me know what you think. And that being said, thank you all for watching, and see you all in the next one.